video, it's a test video. Define psych versus normal functioning. Okay, so I'm recording this in my bathroom because my son's watching Alabama and Auburn play basketball. He's very noisy. My name's Matt. First question: define psychology versus normal mental functioning. Psychopathology is studying the all-around 360 degrees of a person who is dealing with mental disorders. That's the bio, genetic, social, psychological part of the person. Normal functioning. Functioning as everyone else does on a daily basis. The answer really to that is, well, what's the cultural norm? Functioning as everyone else does on a daily basis in the culture. First step in helping someone who comes to you with a mental health concern, the easiest way is maybe what's in the book, but just asking them what's going on. I base my steps on the level of rapport I may or may not have with that person. How are they approaching you? The reality is that most people, including myself, may not ask for help until things are so bad that it is affecting their life in a significant way. Either way, the person's going to approach you in the way that makes them feel the most comfortable. What are the key criteria to determine the presence of a mental disorder? You'd use the competency-based assessment. That's the bio, psycho, social, and spiritual look at the person. How is the issue affecting the person and others? You need to understand the DSM-5 and rule things out. What purpose does making a diagnosis serve? A diagnosis gives the practitioner a more narrow scope on which to focus, but it does not excuse us as practitioners from reevaluating the client each time. We must remember the client is dealing with something. The client does not become the diagnosis. Are there disadvantages to labeling or giving a diagnosis? For the client, a diagnosis can place a stigma. Being a retired soldier myself, I know this firsthand. Imagine going to your boss that you work directly under and telling them that you have a problem, but you don't know what is wrong. You just know that you're unable to do things in the same efficient way that you could before, and now you're unable to pretend that you can power through it and make everyone around you believe that they can rely on you. The stigma is real. Mind you, this is my experience after doing 3 back-to-back Afghanistan deployments near the end of my career, where my job was to supply up-to-the-minute info to help keep Green Berets and other special ops forces and myself alive. That's about 3 years straight of drama, keeping a family together, no real breaks, fearing injury or death, depression, anger, distrust, functioning at a high rate of speed, so to speak. So scramble all that together and cram it in your head. It's like burnout times 10. I did have a break in California when I went from traveling at 100 miles per hour to being forced to travel at 35 with everyone else every day, but still attempting to travel at 100 miles per hour among people who are traveling at 35. Eventually you're going to realize, and people close to you are going to realize something's off. So I unwillingly took that stigma on myself simply by saying I needed help. At the same time, a diagnosis can be a freeing experience for some people. Was it a freeing experience for me? No, not at first. So I felt like a complete failure, a broken, useless machine, and it took time talking, addressing a lot of things to come to a point to realize that I needed a life change. My pastor told me, actually 1 year after I began to study social work, he said, you have to give yourself permission to relax. So that simple sentence blew me away. One sentence could make a difference. That person may have self-realization that will help in moving them along to succeeding in treatment. That one sentence. So do I care about stigma on myself now? No, not nearly as much. The last question was, there are some disorders that are diagnosed in various ethnicities rather than less severe alternatives, depression versus schizophrenia, etc. So how do you become culturally aware? That's a lifelong process. Every time you encounter a culture, I mean, you have to educate yourself. The best thing to do, best thing a practitioner can do is to be unassuming. Do not make assumptions about the client. Stay culturally competent. That's something I've done for most of my life, and something I continue to do. Thanks. Have a great night.